Okay, we are going to get started now. Good morning, everyone. I'm so happy to be here to talk to you about our reopening plan at Lyme. I can tell you that staff and administration have been working day in and day out, trying to come up with a plan that will hopefully meet the needs of most, if not all, of our families and our students. And we are putting in every effort to make sure that we have a safe reopening here at Lyme. So today I'm going to go down the agenda. Hopefully you saw that posted. But this is really just a very fluid conversation. I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the things that we've been doing and where we are currently. But if at any time you have questions, again, there's a chat feature that we'll be utilizing today. And if something happens that I don't answer your question to the point that you feel I should, if you have additional questions, you are most welcome to email me at school or give me a call so that we can have a conversation. My goal in doing this is to make sure you're comfortable sending your children to school or looking for alternatives if that's something that your family is not interested in doing at this time. So first and foremost, I want to tell you that we will be doing another community meeting that will be on August 20th, and that will start at 5 p.m. We anticipate it'll be about 45 minutes, but if we need longer, we'll take longer, and we'll do our best to answer all the questions thoroughly. So the first thing I wanted to share, if you have not gotten on our district website in a while, if you get on the home page, you will find a link to our district reopening portal. That portal is where we're housing all information that's pertaining to our reopening. There are training videos for students. There are videos that teachers will be using. I'm hopeful that the families will get on and refresh their minds about some of the things that are expected when you come to school. There will also be very soon student expectations. So this will help our families identify what is expected of students regardless of the model of learning. So whether we're in person, utilizing some sort of a hybrid model, or if we are doing remote learning. So it'll be a bit different than it was in the spring. There is much more emphasis on attendance. Attendance will be taken daily and even period by period. So you will find some great resources on there. In addition, there are resources from the CDC, the state, the Department of Health, and our nurse will put various communications on there as well. So again, it's that one-stop spot on the website for you to get your questions answered. Following all of our community meetings, we will be creating a question and answer document, and that will also be posted on there for your reference, so that if there's something you're wondering about, you can check there and make sure that, because you can bet that if you have a question, somebody else has the same question. So we'll have you look at that. So on our website, the reopening portal, again, will have many items in there. And if there's something that you believe would be helpful for parents that's not on there, again, if you send an email or give me a call, we will look into that because, again, we want you to be comfortable with this reopening as we are. So we've had some questions about our phased approach, and I guess one of the biggest questions is, why are we doing a phased approach to reopening? why are we starting at phase 2 and only having our K-3 students coming in the building while we're having our 4 through 12 learners doing remote. And I guess the main reason is safety. So with every school district, our challenge is transportation at this point and making sure that we can get our kids here safely. We can only currently have 22 students on our school buses. And as you can imagine, that presents some problems. In addition, everything in the building looks very different this year. Classrooms are not in the same location. For instance, I'll give you an example. We typically run a UPK program, which we are very proud of. Sadly, we're unable to run that program this year because we are utilizing staff differently. Mrs. Sullivan is going to be in a kindergarten classroom, so we were able to split the classroom and have smaller numbers of children in kindergarten in one room. So the UPK classroom will be utilized by 7th graders this year at a couple different times during the day. So the location of our classrooms, how we move around the school, all of that is different. We now have markers on the floor they're directional markers as well as social distancing markers. And they've been placed on the floor, and then our custodial staff did a tremendous job with cleaning, as they always do, but they've actually waxed over those stickers that are on the floor so that hopefully we won't have any movement of those stickers. So our kids will have a great opportunity to practice all of those safety procedures, and that's why we're doing this phased opening. We want to take small groups of students at one time, make sure they're appropriately trained, and we want to work out the kinks. We recognize that some things that we have planned may not work in reality as perfectly as it might look on paper. So having smaller numbers of students here at a time is very important. Looking at flexibility and seamless transitioning, and I will say that with caution because obviously any transition is not fully seamless, but we are really hopeful that the way we have organized our classrooms will certainly be beneficial to our parents and our students. We are looking to use the same technology, in other words, the Chromebooks, daily with our students. And so again, that provides some easy transitioning between in-person and remote learning at home. Again, looking at a full in-person school year, hopefully by phase 6, which is the week of October 5th through 9th. We expect by that time, as long as everything continues to move as smoothly as possible, we will have all of our K-12 students in the building at that time. Looking at instruction, one thing that we have really tried to take into consideration is parent needs as well as student needs, and we relied on surveys that our families filled out, and in regard to that, we noticed that there was a great deal of challenges being presented to parents when, for instance, some districts are being forced, if you will, because of class sizes and such, to take days off during the week. Some schools are only going in person 2 or 3 days. So that's a benefit of a small school like Lyme. We're fortunate because we do have larger classrooms and smaller class sizes. We have had to maneuver a few things around. So again, which is why classes are not in the traditional rooms per se, but we've put larger classes in, for instance, double classrooms, so we maintain that social distancing as required. So looking at asynchronous and synchronous instruction, if you, again, visit our website, you will see 3 separated components on our website, right on the home page. That one talks about testing protocols and procedures, another talks about contact tracing protocols and procedures, and the other is talks about remote learning. So on that, in that document, it talks about the fact that teachers will provide a combination of synchronous, meaning live instruction, whether it's in person or remote, and asynchronous, which could be recorded lessons, use of videos and other materials. And at this point, we are leaving that decision to the professionals in our building. We believe wholeheartedly that our teachers know best what is right for the student learners, and we really want them to make those professional decisions in their classroom. So there's going to be a combination of synchronous and asynchronous. I've had a couple questions about when is it appropriate, or when are we permitting students to be remote learners only? So I want to clarify that. Currently, those decisions are up to the districts, and but as we all know, that could change. The governor could, in fact, make that a stipulation and say that, you know, parents will have choice in that regard. That's been a difficult decision for the district, primarily because we are small. We have a very limited number of staff members certified in each area. And so we had to come up with a system that we believe is best for kids, but that also is manageable for our staff. So currently what we are doing, any student that has a medical issue and has a doctor's note that would indicate that that student should be permitted to have remote learning for his or her health or safety, we are absolutely accepting those notes and following that guidance. The same is true for family members who are living inside the home, who may have at-risk health issues. So we have received a couple requests for remote learning for students who live in a household with a family member who in fact has a health issue. And the physician again provided a note and shared that it was best if the child stayed home, so as not to potentially expose that family member. As I said a few minutes earlier, Chromebooks will be used daily. Parents are encouraged to contact the district if your child needs a Chromebook or has a Chromebook that is not working properly. Mr. Gibo has done a great job fixing those, repairing those, getting replacements to the children. And it's vital that the students have those every day. So they will bring the Chromebooks to school and they will take the Chromebooks home each evening. So I do have a question on here. I'm going to stop for just a minute and let's see what it says. If a student begins remote only due to health concerns, can they join in-person learning at a later date? I would say absolutely with a doctor's note. So if we have a doctor's note that is saying that the student should be remote only and learning from home, the same would be true for that student to return to school. Much like if a child is out in a regular school year, they can't come to school because of a surgery that they had, you know, or they can't participate in gym class for a particular period of time. Once we get a note from the physician saying that it's safe, then absolutely that can happen. So that's a great question, Donna. Thank you for that. So this year, so it's funny, I'll tell you, we have staff in the building today, and the staff are working through all of the things that we'll be doing with kids during the boot camps that are coming up, and we'll talk about that a little later. So the teachers are having some training today, and we were sort of chuckling about the changes that are taking place. We have to laugh so we don't cry, quite frankly, but things that we've always pushed in school, you know, the making it feel like home, being able to hug the children, all of those kinds of things that now we say social distance, don't touch them, you know. It really is life-changing for all of us. I'm pretty sure that I'm going to have my hands tied behind my back so I don't hug the kids, but it's going to be a learning curve for everyone. So along those lines, this year, students are allowed to carry backpacks and book bags. In the past, we have not let them take them from room to room for a variety of reasons, as you can imagine. But this year, because our students are going to, especially our 7 through 12, will have maybe a textbook or a notebook, things that only they can touch, they'll want their backpacks to keep those items in. The same is true or similar to with our elementary students. So when we're thinking about our K-6 students, and I know 6th grade typically follows the secondary schedule, but as we approach this new school year, we're looking at our 6th grade as still needing that extra help and that extra training. So we're clustering them quite a bit with our elementary folks to make sure that we address that. So the elementary students will now, rather than doing that community sharing of pencils, sharing of crayons, each student will have their own items at their own desk. So there will be very little sharing of things such as pencils, although Mrs. Dow, our school nurse, has shared that, you know, in the event the teacher needs to give a new pencil to a student, the teacher will have gloves on. The teacher will use a disinfectant wipe and wipe off the pencil, give the pencil to the student. So we've taken into account, you know, things will happen that we maybe don't think about, but I believe the teachers and our staff and administration have tried to think through just about every scenario and we hope to have some solid solutions for those. So no sharing of materials. This is a big one too. So masks will be worn by students when they're moving around the building. So when they come in the building, well, when they're on the school bus, they must have their mask on at all times. When they come in the building and they're walking through the hallways or walking to the bathroom, or they're in the classroom and they need to stand up and get, throw a tissue away or get their pencil sharpened. At all such times, masks will be worn. And in fact, when a student gets up, if one student gets up to throw something away, all other students in the classroom will be expected to put their mask on while that student walks by to throw that item away. But when the students are at their desk and they're working, they may take their mask off. All classrooms have been set up so there is at least 6 feet between each desk. So that's very important. They had some conversations about whether it was 6 feet nose to nose, 6 feet desk to desk. And currently the guidance is desk to desk. So we have at least 6 feet between the desks. And so then at that time, students will be permitted to take their masks off with the teacher's permission. We are not going to expect children to wear their masks all day long. The same is true for the teachers. Teachers will wear a face mask. They will have a face shield. And each staff member has been given a box of gloves. And at such time that they need to go up and have a conversation with a child, they will, of course, have their mask on, a face shield. If they're going to touch a paper or anything, they'll have gloves on. And what we've asked our staff is not to be within 6 feet, so to remain at least 6 feet apart. If they're closer to 6 feet, it has to be for less than 10 minutes at a time. So let's say they get up to 8 or 9 minutes, the staff member will move away from the child, go back up to the front of the room, and then if need be, come back to the child after a period of time. So masks may be removed when the child is sitting in the classroom. So we have a question that says, how will we contain physical contact on the bus? So the buses, the transportation department has worked with the Department of Health, and all school districts are following a model for seating on the school buses. And what it essentially ends up being, so it's my understanding that directly behind the bus driver, that seat must be empty. And then they will alternate from the window, one student sitting in a seat, sitting by the window, and then the next student will be kitty corner from that seat, sitting at the spot closest to the walkway, and then it alternates all the way back. Again, students must wear masks on the bus, and the bus drivers will wear a mask and a clear face shield. They also will have gloves available so that if anything happens that they do need to touch something. And our bus drivers will also have thermometers, and students will be checked, their temperature checked before they're permitted to get on the bus. So they'll step on either the first or the second step, have their temperature checked, And then as long as their temperature is below 100, then they will, is it 100 and below? 100 and below, I misspoke, sorry. Then they'll be permitted on the bus. Okay, well, that takes us right into transportation, and I think, you know, I've covered most of the items I was going to talk about, so let's, one more time, 22 students on our buses at a time, that's it. So this is where I ask for help from our families. We will be sending home a survey where we are going to ask for a final decision from parents in regard to transportation. None of us know how long this pandemic is going to last or how long the social distancing requirements are going to be in place. So we are going to ask that any parent that has the means to transport their children, we're going to ask you to volunteer to transport your children to and from school, if at all possible. We are hopeful that if many people help us out, we'll be able to provide transportation to those families that don't have a second vehicle or because of work just can't possibly transport the children. So we'll be getting that survey out probably within the next day or two, and we'll ask parents to fill that out as soon as possible so we can really more closely look at our transportation and how we're doing in that regard. Another key point for parents to know, and I recognize that this is problematic, but this came directly from the governor, and there will be no bus changes permitted this year. And what I mean by that is sometimes we have parents or children that are picked up from their home in the morning and then dropped off at a babysitter's in another location in the district in the afternoon. And the new regulation states that there can be one pickup and drop off location only in its same bus only. The other thing that sometimes happens, we'll get you know, a frantic phone call where a parent says, you know, I'm not home, I went shopping or I was at work and I lost track of time. Can you send my child to my mom's or to my neighbor's? And we cannot do that this year. So we are asking people to really be cognizant of that and to make alternative plans so that if you need to have a child picked up, you know, that will be an entirely different situation, but no bus changes this year. So I have, we have a message from someone that's just saying that they feel bad for everyone that's having a difficult time, and they're praising the work, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate that, because these have been very difficult decisions for all of us, and we recognize how very difficult this is for our families. We are trying very hard to make sure that we're considering all of the issues families are dealing with at home as well. So thank you for that. So we have, Donna is saying, we're planning on transporting our children. We have one in elementary, one in junior high, transporting 4 times a day. Is there an option if we want the junior high student to remain at school for the 8 to 2:30 time and work remotely there? That's a great question. I will tell you currently, Mrs. Borquin, the answer is no, there's not an option. We do have an after-school program. We work with Healthy Kids, the Healthy Kids program. My only issue is I do think there's an age requirement. However, I can absolutely check into that. Maybe that would be something that they would be able to do. Unfortunately, we don't have the staff available to monitor students that would stay here. Because our elementary staff will have children for a longer period of time, our secondary staff will be working and helping in some of those elementary classrooms. You know, giving teachers bathroom breaks or giving them an opportunity, you know, helping them get a child who, you know, may need to go to OT or PT down to another teacher. So it's absolutely very challenging, and we will look and see if we can't come up with an option that would help in that case, because I recognize that is an awful lot to ask of our families. Transporting 4 times a day, I get that that's very difficult, and I also recognize it might not be doable. So, you know, if it's a situation where you need to, maybe you can transport your elementary kids, but you need transportation for your secondary kids, you know, we could try to work on that as well. So we'll work with you, certainly. So moving on, so looking at our in-person instructional days, as we just talked about that just a little, but just to be clear, our K-6 students will be in school from 8 to 2:30. And again, just remember that we're using that phased approach. So that first week of school, only K3 students will be in-person learning. 4 through 12 will be doing remote learning. So please refer to our reopening plan and look at that phased opening so you know exactly when to expect your child coming for in-person learning. 7 through 12 will be from 9:30 to 1. And I also want to share that even though that will be the in-person time that your secondary students are in school, parents should expect that kids will have responsibilities before school starts and after that 1 o'clock time frame. And I recognize, you know, kids are on buses for some of that time perhaps, but there will be class assignments posted. There will be work that they have to do at home beyond that actual in-person scheduled time. So if you have additional questions about that, or you don't understand something when you receive the schedules, please just give us a call and we'd be happy to help you out. So I have on here, let's see. The senior could walk, 5th grade transportation, is that a help on bus runs? Absolutely. If the question is, could your senior walk home? I'm not sure that I'm understanding the question correctly, but absolutely, you know, if you give permission and you believe it's safe for your secondary kids to walk home, absolutely, you can give permission for that. And I would just say anytime we have kids that can be transported, that will give us some relief on the buses. And yes, I would say anytime Anytime you can help with the transportation for any of the children, that would be helpful. So we have another question. Will kids with remote learning due to medical be learning with their peers, at least throughout the phase until they begin in school? So there will be a combination of synchronous, meaning live, real-time learning, and asynchronous learning. And that is going to currently depend on the classroom, the class, the teacher, because there are so many things to consider during these times. We have to look at confidentiality for students. You know, let's say we have students in the classroom receiving special education services. Certainly that student or those students are entitled to some privacy. There are considerations as well. Let's say, for instance, a teacher, you know, needs to speak to a student because he or she has gotten up out of their seat 3 times without putting a mask on. The teacher will need to speak to that child, and we believe very strongly that, you know, those things happen, but those students are also we expect those students to have privacy as well. I really don't want, you know, a child getting spoken to and then feeling embarrassed because 10 people at home watch that and then somebody says something about it. So we're trying to meet the needs of all of our students, but we also want to be respectful of privacy and make sure that, you know, we're all taking into account the needs of all students, all learners. So let's look at this. So now we have one. Is the schedule still every other day, or would you consider a set schedule to help parents plan a remote day? The schedule is not every other day. The schedule, if I'm understanding your question, our students at Lyme will be coming to school. Once we get through to phase 6, all students K-12 will be in school every day, Monday through Friday. So, and if there are remote learners, those remote learners will be learning every day remotely. Parents that choose not to send their students to school, there's no medical issue or there's no family medical issue. We have had a couple families indicate that they would like to homeschool this year, which is different than remote learning. And so there also is that option if someone is not comfortable sending their child to school, but they also don't have a medical reason for not sending the child. Yes, Darcy, I spoke with Mrs. Gibbons, and I also spoke with Mrs. Linkrum, and they are looking into your questions, and I know that I know you have some specific concerns regarding Charlie. They are looking into that and actually having a conversation with Mike Lively, and I expect either Mrs. Gibbons or Mrs. Linkrum, or maybe both, will be getting in touch with you. If not today, probably tomorrow. So you can expect that call. So looking back at until we have another question, looking back at our instructional day, Again, K6 from 8 to 2:30 daily. Once we get to phase 6, 7 through 12, 9:30 to 1 daily. You will have, or your student will have access to teachers from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. daily. And the one thing I did say at the last meeting is we're asking our staff to respond to emails or phone calls within 24 hours. Sometimes during the spring when we were in the continuity plan, and this was so very new to everyone, we did have some situations where teachers were receiving emails or text messages at 11 o'clock at night because a parent happened to get home from work or something. And then the teachers, of course, when they saw that, would feel like they would need to respond at that time. And what I've said to them is, if there truly is an emergency or there's a reason that a parent needs to get in touch with someone at school, please contact me if that's necessary. The staff, we do not expect our staff, obviously, to answer emails at 11 o'clock at night. But I also recognize as a parent, you have work schedules, you have things going on, and you need answers. And you might have to be at work at 6 in the morning, and you can't check your email at work. So I would say to you that most often, I mean, there is the occasional time that I hit my ringer off by mistake, but most often I would hear that I received an email and I will check it. So you contact me if you have questions at those times of the night. And if you're not getting answers to questions, or there seems to be an issue with a teacher getting your messages or something, you feel free to contact me and I will be happy to look into that for you. Okay, I think we have, let's look here. So speech, there's a question about speech and PT. So those conversations will be addressed individually for individual students. And you can expect that Mrs. Lankrum or the service providers will be contacting you hopefully before school starts, so that you're well aware of what's going on. Some of those services can be provided in person, and some will be provided via Zoom, depending on whether or not if the student is a remote learner. So we have a variety of ways to address those concerns or those needs for our students. And I can tell you our staff is more than willing to be flexible and work with parents so that you're comfortable in how those services are being provided. We have a question about gym class. So gym, this is a challenging one. So in our elementary, K through 6, and actually now that I'm thinking about that, they may have said K through 8. I believe it might be K through 8. The PE teacher will be going into the classroom. And so occasionally there may be, they might mask up and they might go spread out on the ball field and do yoga or do some other form of exercise. I believe a lot of the PE will be done through teaching videos, that sort of thing in the classroom. But we do intend to get the kids out as possible for walks, you know, as long as they're socially distanced, and if it's PE or music, they have to be 12 feet apart, not 6 feet apart. And most often, if they're doing something where they would, again, with singing, they would have to be at least 12 feet apart. And they may even be required to wear their masks at that time. Let's look. So we have a question that says, I haven't had a chance to look through the testing procedures yet. However, if someone tests positive and there is a potential exposure, will parents be alerted immediately? So we actually do have our nurse in here, and I'm going to ask her to help with that. So we have, and I'll put my mask on since we're being good. So this is Mrs. Dow. And if you want to answer that question.
So yes, if a child is tested positive, I will be working with public health to do the contact tracing, and any parent of a possible exposure will be notified immediately.
Okay, but I would say, Donna, if you want to get on the website when you get a chance, we believe it's very clear, the procedures, but again, as a parent, if you get on there and look at that and you still have questions, you absolutely may email Mrs. Dow or contact the school, and we'll be happy to help you with that. So I mentioned a little bit earlier that we will have Healthy Kids, again, providing after-school childcare. They will offer childcare until 6 p.m. And if you get on our portal, there will be some information on there under Healthy Kids. I don't know if the application is on there yet. Do you know that, Mrs. Wilson? Okay, so the application for Healthy Kids will be going on there today. And you can contact them directly. Sarah Purdy is a teaching assistant that works in our district, and she actually is the staff member that runs that program for Healthy Kids. She does a tremendous job. I do know that there also is an opportunity for some childcare before school as well. And when I spoke with Mrs. Purdy, I believe she said that an hour before school starts, so our school starts at 8 o'clock, so we could potentially have childcare as early as 7 in the morning for our elementary students. So if that's something you're interested in, don't hesitate to contact the district. But be watching on the portal for the applications and more information about that. Let's see, being such a small school, why couldn't we COVID test at boot camp and again on phase 6? So the COVID testing is not something that school districts are permitted to do. So if you want to speak to that.
The state right now is actually recommending that we don't test in schools. And if you're testing asymptomatic people, your test is only as good as that day. So I'm asymptomatic, I could be tested today and it could be negative, giving me a false sense of security, but test positive tomorrow. So just doing random tests like that isn't 100% way of having everybody be safe, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. There is another question for you. Oh. So this says, in the event that a child tests positive for coronavirus, will the bus and class be quarantined? Will the entire family be put under mandatory quarantine?
No, we will follow the public health guidelines, which right now only people who have been within 6 feet for more than 10 minutes will be considered a contact and then quarantined. But if they have not been within 6 feet for more than 10 minutes, they are not considered a contact and will not follow under that category.
So I think something that's really important to just talk about again is the district, when we have any indication that a student was home and tested positive, or if we have concerns about a student, our first response is to call the Department of Health. And in all cases, the Department of Health directs the district regarding next steps. So I think that's really important for parents to know that the Department of Health is in charge here, and as far as identifying, they will actually oversee the contact tracing. However, I will tell you something we're very proud of, and I don't think all school nurses have done this, but our school nurse has gone through a course and successfully completed the course for contact tracing. So she will absolutely work hand in hand with the Department of Health, and we expect, you know, they have a great deal of experience with this, and they will make sure that a thorough job is done. So we have a question about mental health and how will this be addressed? And that's a terrific question. So we have spent a great deal of time really focusing on the issue of mental health. And so one thing that will happen, students will have a survey daily. On that survey, they'll be able to, first of all, mark what they want for lunch and breakfast. And on there, they'll also have, there'll be almost a mental health check-in, you know, how are they feeling today? Do they need to speak with someone? And there will be a picture of the service provider that they may be most comfortable with. They can pick the one they're most comfortable with. We also have our health teacher. We have our counselors will be in classrooms. They will be doing trainings. They will be going in and doing lessons and really focusing on that. There will be a big emphasis on staff members and teachers really making note of students who seem to be struggling for any reason. I think we have looked at that very closely, and I think we have a great plan in place. There are some more specifics in our full reopening plan in that regard. So once you've had a chance to look at that a little more closely, if I didn't answer your question well enough, please just give us a call, and I would let you talk to our CSE chair or one of our counselors, and they can talk to you about some of the things that they have in place as well. So my child packs their lunch some days and eats the school sometimes. Absolutely. So if your child brings a lunch from home, but they decide once they get there that they want the school lunch, absolutely. Yes, we encourage it. In fact, we are still doing the free breakfast and lunch program this year, and I've tried to share as often as possible. It helps the district when the children eat the breakfast and lunch at school because of reimbursement dollars that the district gets. So it's a benefit We hope it's a benefit for our families, but it absolutely is also a benefit for the school district. So take advantage of that. You may send a lunch if you wish, or your children may eat at school anytime. Okay, so, and yes, menus will be provided, much like they were before. I know the cafeteria staff is working on that currently. In the event that cases arise at Lyme, or even let's say at other districts within the student body or staff, will the district either affected or just all of the districts need to move to remote? That is a great question, and I think that the benefit of our phased approach is that we can move between any of those phases very quickly from one day to the next. So in the event, if there were a situation and through contact tracing, the Department of Health determined that a school district needed to close, they would absolutely let us know that. So we would know that. I can't say that if there is a case or two at, let's say, General Brown, because they're one of our closest neighbors, if they have a situation, it's my understanding that it's not necessarily going to be impactful for us at all. The same is true even if we had a student that tested positive for COVID. That doesn't necessarily mean that our school or even that classroom is going to have to fully go to remote. Those are case-by-case determinations. And again, and Mrs. Dow, correct me if I'm wrong, but we will be directed one way or another by the Department of Health. If we were to close, that is their call. They say, you must close, or this classroom must close and go to remote. But, you know, those are going to be case-by-case situations. So moving on, I guess I just wanted to hit upon one more thing and I did mention this earlier, but the district will in fact be creating a question and answer document. So all of the questions that you've posted today, questions that were posted during our first community session, questions that teachers have had, we're creating one document and we will post that on our website. Those will be in our reopening portal, so that if there are things that you can't quite remember how they were answered, or you wonder if there's another, you know, if there was something you missed, you can refer to that document. And at any time, as I said, you may feel free to send email questions or comments to any member of the administrative team. We can be reached by email. You may call us, and I would encourage you to do so. We want you to feel comfortable sending your children to school, and we very much want to help you and answer your questions to the best of our ability. If there's anything else, you know, that you're wondering about, we have a couple things on here. Let me see, I've got to move this just a little. Let's see. Thank you for the kind words. I want to say that. And I really do appreciate you joining us today. We are about ready to end the meeting, but I will say again, just because the meeting has stopped, that doesn't mean you can't email or call us at any time. Again, we very much want to help you answer your questions. If you have emailed me, and there are a couple families that joined us today that have emailed me personally, please know that I have read those emails. I have forwarded those to the appropriate staff members, be it Mrs. Linkrum or one of the other teachers. And I would say that if you don't hear from someone in the next day or two in regard to your questions, please don't hesitate to email me again, and I will look into it again. We are doing our very best to get back to people in a timely manner, but please understand that there might be a time or two that we miss something or don't get back to you quite as quickly as you would like. Thank you very much for joining us. And again, don't hesitate to contact us. Thank you all for your support. It means a great deal. We will be talking to you again soon. If you want to join the next meeting, it is on August 20th, and we will be talking at 5 p.m. Thank you very much. Bye-bye, everyone.